Time in Mr. McGregor's garden. And I have one of my very favorite books to share with you, Gaston. See this little white puppy? That's Gaston. Mrs. Poodle admired her new puppies, Fifi, Fufu, Ooh La La, and Gaston. Would you like to see them again? Fifi, Fufu, Ooh La La, and Gaston. Perfectly precious, aren't they? Mrs. Poodle thought so too. The puppies grew as puppies do. 3 were no bigger than teacups. The 4th, however, continued to grow and grow until he was the size of a teapot. Mrs. Poodle took pride in teaching her puppies how to be proper pooches. They were taught to sip and never slobber. Good. Well done. Very nice. Oh, nice try. They were taught to yip and never ever yap. Yip, yip, yip. Ruff. And they were taught to walk with grace and never race. Tip, toe, tippy toe. Whoa. The puppies were also taught how to look pretty in pink and nibble their kibble and ride in style. Whatever the lesson, Gaston always worked the hardest and practiced the longest and smiled the biggest. Mrs. Poodle was very pleased with all her puppies, Fifi, Fufu, Ooh La La, and Gaston. Spring arrived, and the proud mother was eager to show off her darlings. She took them to the park for the very first stroll in public. There was a lot to see: daffodils, ducklings, and other dogs. Oh dear, who do we have here? Why, it's Rocky, Ricky, Bruno, and Antoinette. Would you like to see them again? Rocky, Ricky, Bruno, and Antoinette. There was more than just a little awkward silence. The mother sized up the pups sized one another. It seems there's been a terrible mistake, Mrs. Bulldog said, breaking the silence. Oui, oui, Mrs. Poodle agreed sadly. Whatever shall we do? Mrs. Bulldog could not come up with an answer. I guess we'll let them decide, she replied at last. Gaston and Antoinette were young, but even they could see there had been a mix-up. The 2 puppies began to circle around and around the group. Gaston walked with grace. Antoinette raced. Gaston yipped, and Antoinette yapped. And when they finally came to a stop, the puppies had traded places. There, now that looked right. It just didn't feel right. That evening, Antoinette tried to fit in with her new sisters, but she didn't really like anything proper or precious or pink. Phooey, she said. On the other side of town, Gaston tried to fit in with his new brothers, but he didn't really like anything brutish or brawny or brown. Ick. Antoinette and Gaston weren't the only ones who were having a hard time adjusting. So the very next morning, Mrs. Poodle forgot all about being proper, and she raced right back to the park. But Mrs. Bulldog was there already, waiting with her burly brood. Oh, it seems we've made a terrible mistake, she nearly shouted. Oui, oui, Mrs. Poodle agreed happily. This time, Gaston and Antoinette wasted no time trading places. There! Now that looked right, and it felt right too. From that day forward, the families met in the park every afternoon to play. Rocky, Ricky, Bruno, and Antoinette taught the poodle puppies a thing or two about being tough. Likewise, Fifi, Fufu, Ooh La La, and Gaston taught the bulldog puppies a thing or two about being gentle. And many years later, when Gaston and Antoinette fell in love and had puppies of their own, they taught them to be whatever they wanted.